Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Even though it says 0 people are watching.
Interesting. You sure it's working?
I'm checking.
Oh, it just jumped up to 48, so it is
Yeah, I
working.
was like, "Wait." Not that I'll be
Had a moment where I was
surprised,
like,
but
I will post in the Discord that we are live.
how's everybody doing today?
I hope everyone is doing well. Okay.
So glad to see you all again. On this lovely Saturday morning.
Gosh. The time, January really flew. I'm glad I finished the book a little bit earlier because this week I had no time whatsoever.
I didn't finish
Um,
it the night before, so I was really proud of myself.
Yay! I'm very, very excited to discuss this book. And
Mm.
if my throat sounds like a little raspy, I went to a concert last night and I was screaming my lungs out. So I'm not sick or anything. But K-pop does things to people, okay?
So many comments about Cass's new hair.
I wanted something a little different. So
Oh, somebody just finished the book right now. I
you have
love
like
that.
5 minutes.
I love
Oh,
that
you
level
literally
of
just finished. Oh, beautiful.
procrastination. Me too.
Did we? No. Huh? I want to say A Far Wilder Magic, but I think I finished that the night before. I don't think there's been any books that I finished morning of.
No, because I just know it would stress me out too much. So yes, that is some Valentine's Day
I was
core.
about to comment on that, before we went live. I was like, "That's so
Nothing.
cute."
I love decorating for holidays. It's my favorite thing. I still have the bad stuff though, because obviously.
Obviously. Yeah, I'm just so lazy about decorating that I'm like, once I put it all up, I'm gonna have to eventually take it down. So why put it up in the first place?
Well, you're gonna have to decorate for St. Patty's Day.
Oh yeah, other than St. Patty's Day,
Your
that's my favorite
favorite
holiday.
holiday.
I'm going all in, you know?
You should have dyed half of your hair green. Oh my god,
I
missed
was thinking
opportunity.
I think there's only so much my work is willing to tolerate.
Oh, somebody's birthday's on Valentine's Day. That's so cute.
That's cute.
I'm jealous.
I don't know, Valentine's Day isn't it hasn't ever been my favorite holiday because I've always been single on it, so it's just in your face. But now I'm celebrating my friendships, and that's what I really care about.
I mean, I do celebrate my friendships, but I've always kind of liked Valentine's Day just because I really like heart decorations. And pink and red is one of my fave color combos. Not to wear, but to decorate and do things with.
I mean, it looks fun, it looks cute, it brightens up places. So, I guess. Not the awkward silence straight
Oh,
away.
should we start talking about it? What did everybody rate it?
Oh yeah, that's good place to start.
Yeah.
What was the ratings for?
Personally, I gave it a
Uh-oh.
3-star.
Okay. That's about what I expected from you. I was thinking maybe a little bit higher than a 3-star, but when you said you were bored, I was like, "Uh-oh."
It wasn't my favorite. So many 5 stars though.
2s. Ooh. 2, a couple of 5s.
A lot of dichotomy in the chat.
3.75, 3.5, 3.5. Okay. I'm honestly I'm not surprised, but I definitely still gave it a 5-star.
Yeah.
I will say though, I definitely looking back since I recently finished The Wise Man's Fear, I really enjoyed The Wise Man's Fear more than The Name of the Wind, but I still love them both.
Can you share
So,
why?
can I share why?
Give, a
More
decent
shit
explanation.
happens in the second book.
Oh, okay.
Like, I didn't realize the moments in this book that absolutely dragged until I was annotating, and I was like, I haven't highlighted anything in a hot second. I was like, "Oh, damn." Like, I think I just read it so fast the first
Yeah.
time, so it, like, felt like a quicker read, but then slowing down to annotate it, I was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
So some moments are, like, a little slow here.
I was really enjoying it in the beginning. I thought it was really, like, interesting, but it was very slow, and throughout the book, I just started to really not like Kvothe. Not a fan.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's just,
What
like,
what, like, particular reasons that got you where you didn't
it's
like Quoth?
it's not even, like, his personality necessarily, although there are some, like, points on that where I'm just like, "Shut up, dude," because there's so many times when he's like, "You wouldn't get what that's like," or he's like, "I'm just so brilliant, like, you don't even know what it's like to be this brilliant." I'm like, "We get it, like, okay." But also, like, a flaw in his character in, like, my eyes is that he's kind of good at everything, and it's irritating.
Okay, which I think is where he then gets that, like, almost, like, narcissistic persona
Yeah,
about being good at shit
like,
is
they go hand
because
in hand.
I mean, even in the beginning, though, with, like, Abinthy, when Abinthy was talking to his parents about how brilliant he was, so from, like, a young age, he was just always told and, like, had evidence of, like, how much smarter and better he was than people, and, like, he's the youngest in the university, so he's constantly trying to prove himself, and so I get why that would annoy some people, though, I will say.
Yeah. Like, I would assume, maybe that'll set up, like, some good character development later, but, like, just reading about it in this book, I was very irritated.
Yeah, I think it's really a hit or miss with Kvothe. Um, I don't know, I think I enjoy his character just because it's different than a lot of characters. Like,
Mhm.
he's he is annoying, but, like, I also love some of the, like, things he pulls because of his personality.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing with him, that whole scene.
I
I
liked that,
I
but
love that scene.
also it irritated me because I was like, "You've just been given this, like you've just been given free to not even free tuition, he's getting paid to go to the university, like, for that term." I was like, "Shouldn't you have a bit more, like, respect for the position
Yeah,
that
but
you've
him's an
been
asshole.
given?" I mean, he is, but also I'm like, step back and think about it for a minute. I don't know. 'Cause, like, by the same token, I was like, he's 15. Like, 15-year-old guys are annoying. So it makes sense, but I'm still like, "What are you doing?"
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. I still enjoyed his character a lot.
No, I definitely see why people would, but I just started, like, hone in on that fact a bit too much, and then everything he
Mhm.
said, I was like, Stop talking."
Yeah. See, I we have mixed opinions about, like we're kinda, like, split about people that, like, enjoyed the fact that he was smart. Oh my god, sorry, my throat hurts so bad.
You're doing great,
Um,
though.
and then the people that just kind of, like I don't know, I enjoyed that part because I it fit, like, the vibes of where the book was going
Yeah,
because he's the youngest in the university, and because of that, he had to be smart and, like, good at picking up things. But that was his personality thing, was being good at picking up things.
yeah.
So,
Feel like
I get it, though.
you either vibe with Kvothe or you don't, and the
Yeah.
problem is, like, he's the main
The
character.
main character.
There's not even, like, a cast of characters really, it's just him. So if you
Yeah.
don't like him, you're probably not gonna like the book very much.
Now, should we bring up one of the other more, like, controversial characters, which is Denna? I
Oh,
wanna know
yeah.
some opinions about Denna that y'all have.
Honestly, I don't really have any opinions on Denna. I don't really, like her, but I don't dislike her. She's kinda there.
Yeah, I feel like a lot in the first book, she's kinda just there. I don't remember how prevalent she is in the second book, I'm gonna be honest. But, it's just, like, an interesting way to, like, 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 I don't really care that much about the romance, but her character is fascinating about how it's written, or
Yeah.
how she's written. There was, like, some discussion in the Discord, I don't know if you saw any of that.
I read a bit of it, but I wasn't finished with the book at that point in time, so I didn't wanna, read too extensively.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting situation to where, like, you can tell they both like each other, and Kvothe is obviously, like, clueless to that aspect,
Yeah.
but it just like their life circumstances, it's not gonna work.
I also kind of
Like
feel like
it feels like sorry.
she was sorry, and like I interrupted you, but I was gonna say it kind of feels like she was leading him on almost.
In a way, yeah. However, I mean, I guess technically she was because the only people that like warned Kvothe about her were like all the other characters. So he already has an idea of her personality. I feel like it's his fault for continuing to come back. So
Yeah,
even though she technically was like leading him on, he was warned by many people about kind of her life situation, and he did learn more about like her life situation in the end after the whole dragon scene.
the
But
dragon.
the dragon
I was
that
so
caught me.
excited at first because I was like, it was a dragon. I was like, no way. And then I was like, actually, it's not a dragon. I was like, what?
What do you mean it's not a dragon?
I
Yeah,
was
the
so
first time I was
excited.
reading that, it caught me so off guard. Like the first read, I was like, "There's a dragon."
I looked up a picture of this thing too because I was like, I cannot imagine what this looked like. And it was disgusting looking. It's just like this really fat lizard, and I didn't like it.
Jimmy James says, "I wish she had more personality. She was described as being beautiful. But how do you feel about her personality?" I think that's an interesting thing because I think that's something that the author really did focus on. But also, this is through the eyes of a 15-year-old boy, like Katie mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I'm not calling all 15-year-old boys shallow.
I am.
Don't misconstrue that. However,
To any 15-year-old boys in the chat, if you want it.
I think her personality is harsh and like a little cruel, but I that's like a good point about like a lot of the focus about like the women were about their looks. And I think it is because it is like Quoth is so young. I don't think the author is trying to necessarily be a dick to women per se, but I think it's like you have to think about the character and whose eyes we're seeing this story through. Yes, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely impacts how a lot of things, like how you feel about it, like not you specifically, but like the reader feels about a lot of things because there are moments when I had to step back and be like it makes sense for him, but it irritates me. But I can't
Yeah.
really get mad at it because he's a 15-year-old boy, but I'm mad at like the situation and it's like it's very confusing. It's conflicting.
Right. Because part of it's like, okay, is the author actually just like misogynistic, or is he just a good writer able to hone back into how like the perspective would be for someone young? I love how we're just blaming like this he's 15 and he's a boy.
But
There's
it's
his problem.
all his fault.
That's his main flaw in his character. He should have just not been a boy and been older. And then we can talk.
Maria brings up a good point that, like, yeah, Denna, is that her name? She was cruel, but she kind of had to be in order to survive and not get, like, abused by the men around her. And I feel like that was probably a very common situation, like, in this world for, like, a young girl who doesn't really have any, like, parental figure. So I think kind of it's an, what's the word? I'm trying to, it's like based on like how she had to live in the world, it makes sense that she was the way she was.
I mean, and it's the same thing with Quoth when he was living in to start the T. Oh no.
What is that place called?
What is that called? Oh no. Wait. I swear I read it. I know it starts with a T, right?
Caribbean? Is that the one?
Tarbian. Yes. Um train of thought, where did it go? When he was living in Tarbian, like he had to make decisions and like make actions that weren't necessarily like good per se. For example, when he saw like the young boy like being beat to death or like hurt it, he didn't do anything because he had to think about his own welfare, which I think is kind of similar in vein to Denna. And I'm sure he kind of understands. Like he might not like what Denna has to do, but I think he understands because he's been in a situation similar to where he had no one and nothing but himself, and he had to do what he had to do to survive the world. And it is very different from how Kvothe had to deal with it as a man compared to like how Denna had to deal with it, because Denna would be absolutely abused. And I don't think she could survive like Tarbian. just out on her own, single and
Yeah.
alone, especially since she is described as so beautiful. I feel like she would have definitely been abused or gotten wrapped up in something a little sketchy.
I think it could be interesting to see them like bond over that and like really come out and talk about it with each other. Like obviously, at least I don't think they did, but I'd like to see that conversation happen.
Maureen said, and she didn't have the luxury to choose Quoth, she just needed to survive. And I think that's a solid point.
Yeah.
And it makes for an interesting romance. Again, I'm not big on the romance aspect of this book, just because Denna's not necessarily my favorite character. And I don't remember who mentioned it earlier, but about her mostly like her looks just being described, not her personality. I think that's why I was never able to really like connect with Denna, because we're not really given much of her personality. Like we understand her circumstance and what she does, but in terms of like who she is as a character, I mean, she's constantly changing her name too. And so it's like, what part of her is she showing compared to like who she really is?
Yeah. But I just wish we could know more about her personality. Like not even from like a romance aspect, just like be able to understand her as a character more. Maybe that happens in the second book. Maybe it'll happen in the third book. I don't know. But
No one knows.
whenever that happens, but I just wish we would know more about her so I could connect with her a bit better. But that's probably just why I feel so about her.
That's fair. I thought oh my goodness. I thought Kvothe was gonna go for Fella for a second. I almost wish we saw a little bit more of Fella. I feel like the other characters were very like touch and go. And I don't remember them being this touch and go because I just remember Simon is like one of my favorite characters. And I was like, we really don't get that much of Simon. Like I really thought we did.
Poor Simon.
But maybe in the second book, I honestly don't remember how the second book starts. So
It has been a while.
I'll refresh my brain eventually. But I don't know. The other characters I feel like had a lot of potential, but weren't shown that much. And I really thought we spent more time at the university.
Yeah.
Like
I
characters
feel
like Fella, I really liked. Simon, Devi is like one of my favorite characters, and we get like I'm like picking at scraps for the Devi content because I love her to pieces. She's an absolute badass, and I just wish we got more of the characters.
yeah.
Um,
I feel like they were kind of put there just to kind of move Kavoth's plot line along almost when like she could have fleshed those characters out and I feel like it would have made a slightly more well-rounded book.
I guess that's fair. Concede your point, but I don't remember what I was gonna bring up. Eladin. Oh my goodness, Eladin is just Eladin is the master who isn't master namer. The one that was the master namer, right?
There's like
Eladin.
all of like the masters in the university could not keep them straight to save my life.
Like, I couldn't keep him straight the first time either.
I knew which one Hem was just because he was a bad man, but more words I could say there, but I could like the rest of them, I don't know. Couldn't remember them.
Eladin was the master neighbor that at the end of the book, after he called the wind, Eladin sponsored him to become Relar. Which
okay.
One of my favorite things about like Kvothe like moving up the ranking system was every time it happened, it was because Kvothe did something stupid as fuck. And I love that so much. Like the first time with the malfences with malfeasance. Okay, I'm not gonna thank you. With Hem, I was like, yes. When they promoted him up, I was like, yes, that is so funny that they used his discipline, like his disciplinary action to like rank him up. And then again after Ambrose Ambrose smashed his loot. Not Ambrose. He got ranked up to Relar, and I just think it's so funny.
He's definitely a crafty young lad. Can't deny that.
Except for when he jumped off the roof. That was not his final. That was so funny.
I was like, maybe he deserved that one. Just knock him down a peg.
Yeah. I think that's almost what I mean. Eladin's character is a little bit eccentric, so maybe that wasn't exactly the point. But also I think it did kind of humble Kvothe from his like I know everything. And then he jumps off this building, and then he's like, oh, okay, no, maybe maybe I shouldn't. Ambrose's character is very interesting because I really like the my god, I keep trying to use big words and like stuttering over them. Therefore diminishing the fact that of like
No, no, just keep
my
going. You're
improved
good.
diction.
You're good.
Anyway, I like the dichotomy between like Ambrose and his power and like Kvothe, because I mean we're told over and over again about how talented Kvothe is, how much better he is than a lot of students, and obviously I think he's now. I don't think Ambrose is Relar. Like I don't think he's ranked. Is he? Does anyone know? I can't remember if he had a sponsor or not. But it's like Ambrose is rich, and so he doesn't really have to work for a lot of things other than in the university, because I think the university does a decent job about kind of like leveling the playing field. Like yes, they have to pay like their tuition, but when they're learning, like you can't like there's not a lot of influence between the masters in terms of like finances. And so it was interesting though when Kvothe was like he got his talent pipes and then was barred from all the good taverns because of Ambrose's influence. And I
I
think that was
was
very interesting to see as a character, like the rich versus the poor.
I was so sad for him, honestly. I was like, oh, he actually kind of worked for that one, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah, the talent pipe scene is like one of my absolute favorite
It
scenes. It
got me. I
was
can't lie. When he came in for the handshake, but the talent pipes were there, I was like, no way.
mhm. It was so good. I think it was really set up good too because like we got see the scene where like Kvothe was watching others like try to get their talent pipes, and then when his string broke, but he had trained as like a kid, like that whole callback. I thought that scene
Yeah.
was just was so beautiful. And yeah, when the handshake and it had the talent pipes, and then he immediately almost gave them away to Denna.
I
What a
know. I
simp!
was like,
What a
dude,
simp!
literally. I was like, not for a woman. Come on now.
But she also like contributed to him getting his talent pipes by jumping in as his Elowen. I think it was Elowen, something
Whoever
like that.
the singer.
Whoever the other
Yeah.
singer was, I think that was like a really I think it was a cool thing, and I think in his mind it was like a nice thing to do. And I mean, it still was a nice thing to do to
Yeah.
imply. I'm glad she rejected it though, because he
Yeah,
worked
me
for
too.
those.
He was like, oh, I can always just try again. I was like, what was the point of doing it this time then?
Crafty Cat says, "I'm scared that Ambrose becomes the king, and that's why there's a war and so many folks trying to find him." Honestly, I wonder because it is called the King Killer Chronicles, so that would be
Honestly,
an
that would
interesting
be really
theory.
cool.
That would be. I
If
would
I
be
find
okay if that's
out
the king that ends up being killed. You
if I find out that's what happens, I might have to read the rest of them.
know.
Because even though, like, I didn't really like Kvothe that much, Ambrose still pissed me off. So I'd like
I
to see
think he was well written in being like that snobbish royalty.
yeah. Somebody compared him to Draco Malfoy, which is a very accurate comparison.
Yeah, no, honestly. When he bought the entire inn that Kvothe was staying in. Like how petty is that? Just like
But also I was like, wait, that's kind of funny. Like I feel bad for Kvothe, but at the same time I was like, damn.
right? Just interesting like the power play of like all his friends being like that was a bad enemy. And he's like, "Yeah, I know, but like he started it." He's the one that keeps making comments back to me, and I'm like, "Both no, you're just a little bitch and easy to insult." Like maybe it's like a mutual fault situation. It's not his fault, it's not your fault. You're both just little bitches.
I do like that the playing feels like was rather even though. Like even though Ambrose did have all this money, like Kvothe still like adequately, I feel like got back at him for a lot of the things that he did, even though he didn't necessarily have the means. So just very a crafty young.
He's very crafty.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I love like his oh my gosh. Like from being in his troupe, his ability to like act and be witty and like kind of play a part. I thought I liked that he like there was a backstory and reason to that. It wasn't just like, oh, he's just some crafty character. It was like he grew up in the troupe and that's kind of what trained him to become like this character that's able to take on so many different like personalities per se, depending on the circumstances. Or
Yeah.
like when he was acting up, what was he pleading? He was pleading about something. I don't remember what he was pleading about. He was like, I was gonna wring my hands, but that seemed a little bit too dramatic.
Oh yeah. I also don't remember what he was like, what scene that was even.
I don't know. But like
I
a lot
remember
of
that
his
line.
dialogue and a lot of I annotated it and there's like a lot of yellow tabs and yellow is funny for me. And like that's the majority of the book. Like I was laughing so much. Like I think it's just my sense of humor. Like they align really, really well.
Yeah, because like I didn't really find this book to be like that funny, to be honest. I feel like if Kavoth was just like funnier, I probably could have enjoyed it. But like the things he did were kind of like funny. But him as a person, I don't know, I didn't find him to be that funny.
You were probably too busy being annoyed with him, so every time he cracked like a joke, you're like, bitch, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, sounds about right.
No, the third book is not out yet. So sorry, y'all.
There's a name for it though, right?
I think so. Let's see. The Doors of Stone.
Oh.
It's supposed to be the third and final novel. Will it
Ominous.
ever be released? I don't know.
Hey, at least there's
The
a
release
title.
date, it says the release date was formally reported to be July 11th, 2022. Sure. Sure.
What is wrong with Patrick Rothfuss?
Honestly, like, yeah, there's some sketchy things. There is like a tiny novella about Ari, but it's just her and the under thing.
Do you have
And
to read the
like,
second book to read that one?
I don't think so. I think you can read it in between. I've heard it's like really slow and it's just like you're vibing with Ari. I don't know if there's any like development.
I really liked Ari as a character. I thought she was very interesting. So I might read that.
I think, yeah, I think she was not the only one, but she was one that had a very like distinct personality and like I want to know more about Ari, so I think I will pick up the Slow Regards of Silent Things because she's a fascinating character of like kind of what happened to her and why she is the way she is now.
Yeah.
Oh, my throat hurts so bad. Mariah agrees with me. They said the humor in the book was pretty good at some points. There was just some like good
Yeah.
there was some good witty lines in here. I don't know. And I think I love this book too because there's like a lot of little moments that I was able to tie back to Ranger's Apprentice.
You
And
know,
so the
when I was
humor,
reading this book, I was like, I definitely see why Cass likes this book because it reminds me a lot of Ranger's Apprentice.
it really does.
Like,
So if you're
reminds me
looking
a
for
lot.
a complete series with
Yeah.
like humor similar to this, I don't know. I think that's why I grew up sarcastic as Ranger's Apprentice. So now like to find an adult fantasy that like gives me the same vibes and like there are like a lot of annotations, especially in the beginning, where I was like, this reminds me of so and so from Ranger's Apprentice.
Please.
So I mean, I was picking at crumbs sometimes. I was like, oh, that's basically the same thing.
No, but
I
like
think
even I like picked it up and I've only read the first two books.
I think at one point I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure like Aventhy is secretly a ranger and I'm not gonna like take any criticism from my past self. So I think that's my yeah, I think that's why I loved it so much too. Someone had mentioned earlier about the dragon taking away from the Chandrian, and Audrey said, "That's exactly what I was thinking. I know the Chandrian will be a focus later in the books, but at least I hope. But I think he dropped the ball by focusing so much on the dragon. I really didn't remember the dragon taking up so much of the book, but I was a little disappointed in how much of the book the dragon took up as well. I
I
wish there
know
was."
I was like listening to the audiobook during that part, like just the audiobook, because I was like, I do not care about this dragon anymore. Like when it was first introduced, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then it just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, just leave.
Yeah, I think the hunt for the Chandrian is very interesting, though, because it's not something he can, like, openly talk to people about without them, like,
Thinking he's insane.
thinking he's insane or, like, childish, which is something he tries to avoid because he is a child and he doesn't wanna be perceived that way in the way children do, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I also wanna see a reunion between Aventhy and Kvothe. I was so glad when Aventhy got out of the troop before they were all, slaughtered, because I didn't remember if he did or not.
That part was jarring, honestly.
Yeah, how did everyone react to that? Because I feel like that really draws some people in to the
I was,
book.
like, reading the book in public, and I was like, "What's going on?"
That was an insane scene. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this." Like that, damn. It is the only part of his past that still exists. That's a good point, Maureen. So that it would be nice to get a reunion for sure.
I hope they get a reunion.
I do too. I was shocked, but I liked it as a scene. I think it's an accurate way to put it. Like I was shocked. I was like really like sad that it happened, but it really like shaped Kvothe's character and like who he is with his trauma.
Trauma.
So much trauma. There was some foreshadowing, but I didn't expect it to happen like that. Right? I don't
I didn't pick up, like, any foreshadowing before it. I was just like, "Damn."
yeah. I didn't either. I was just waiting because I thought it happened a lot earlier in the book, and it was like 100 pages in, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting closer. Oh no, here we go. I kept wondering how the public reacted to the death of the troop because the troop was under the name of some baron, meaning someone would go looking for them if they stopped doing shows. I mean, I guess that's fair, especially since they were such like a well-known, like they're the Rue or the Ruh. Not
Who's
sure
the
how they
Rue?
is it the Rue. So they're like a well-known troop with like a good reputation, but also I don't know, it's like a hard thing to try to like figure out if they did like I don't know, like disband or move on because like communication in this world is not like instant. So it would probably take a while before like it got around to the Baron, and then by then it's like they are just like they're just entertainment for the most part.
Yeah, I feel
So
like the noble people probably wouldn't care enough.
they're like, all right, we'll find another troop.
Yeah, like, whatever. Maybe they took a vacation.
Oh, one of the interesting like the only foreshadowing or not it wasn't a foreshadowing that I picked up on, but like it was later in the book, and then I was like, oh my gosh, that was foreshadowing. Was the scene with the tinker, and when the tinker offered him like the wine and the rope and whatever else he got, I don't remember. I just remember the wine and the rope. And then later with Denna had asked for like wine or something, and he was like, oh, like I passed up some wine. And then when they're like fighting the dragon, they needed rope, and he's like, I should have just taken what that tinker gave me. And I think that's a really interesting thing of like, is it coincidence? Because there's stories and stuff about tinkers. Like, do they have some sort of magic of like foresight? Or are they just like, what is the deal with tinkers, you know? Like, is it, I don't know. It seems too like specific to be coincidence.
I did not pick up on that whatsoever. But that's really interesting now that you mention it.
I don't think I picked up, oh, I know I did not pick up that like on my first read. I think there's a lot of things I didn't pick up on the first read just because there's so much going on. The magic system is not explained in a good way in the beginning. I think Hem's class, when, Kvothe is a little dick, I think that explained like the sympathetic magic and the linking so much better than how Abenthy described it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's easier to understand like the more you're into the world and the more he uses magic. But I know, like, just trying to keep, like, the university, like, all the masters in order in your head, the magic system, all the characters, the rankings. There's, like, a lot to keep track of in this book, which, I mean, that's why it's high fantasy. And so it is adult high fantasy.
But I feel like there are definitely, like, other adult high fantasy that are just way easier to, like,
They're
understand
like
than
the
this one.
Stormlight Archives.
No, that magic system's also really confusing. So very valid that this magic system is also confusing. What did we all think of the writing? I feel like that's
Oh,
something this book is definitely praised for is his prose.
his prose. They're just so pretty. Like the first line of the book was just it was stunning.
Is that the one about the
It's about like the silence of three parts. And I just think it's so good. It's so pretty.
I've definitely like never really experienced like fantasy writing like this almost. So I really enjoyed it. And there were a lot of like sentences where I was like, oh, he did that.
Right? And like to have that many throughout the book, it wasn't just like describing scenery. It was like describing like a lot of things throughout the book. And I was like, that is so pretty. Like,
Yeah.
how do you just come up with that? How?
Yeah, I think the writing, Audrey makes a good point. The writing is magical, but also not like super hard to understand, which I feel like just like that's like a good in between is like ideal for fantasy, in my opinion.
And in terms of like the magic, like, yes, it was confusing, but even if you didn't understand it, I think you got the general gist. Like, even if you didn't understand it completely, and I don't think it was necessary to understand it completely either.
My only like thing with the magic is like there wasn't enough magic in this book. Like it wasn't quite fantastical enough for what I really want in like a fantasy story. And like I'm sure as, like Kavoth gets older and he kind of learns his power better, like it will like you'll see more of it because like obviously he's using it more. But like in this one I was just kind of like it's kind of a coming of age story with like a sprinkle of magic, but I wanted more.
Yeah, I would say, like, even like the sympathetic bonds and stuff, as Abinthy put it, it's not really magic. Like, it is fantastical, but it's not magic. The only main like magic in this book is like the calling of names. So when Eladin like breaks like the stone when they're in the tower, like that was magic. Or when Kavos calls the name of the wind, which is such a badass scene. When oh my gosh, when Ambrose just goes flying. Oh my gosh.
I did like that scene.
So I feel like that is like the most magic in the book. But yeah, I can see I honestly don't remember if there's more magic or not in the second book. So yeah.
Yeah.
Someone asked about people's opinions on Bast. Can we talk about Bast?
was
Absolutely.
I was shocked at the ending. I was like, damn, he's kind of scary. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
I I think the first time I read the book, I was annoyed at like the interludes. I was like,
Really.
I don't really care about Coat, like his persona of Coat. This reread, though, I was absolutely obsessed with present day, and I almost wanted more time in present day.
I really
I
liked
just
the interludes a lot. Like every time I get to one, I was like, okay, it's kind of I like because I really like the going back and forth and like seeing where he got to, but you don't know how he got there yet. And I really enjoyed them.
I really like the dramatic timing of a few of them, especially the chapter where I was like, it was a dragon, and then it was
That
like, bam,
pissed me
interlude.
off.
It literally, like, I was so sucked into it, and then I was like, oh, whoa, like we're back out, and I thought that was like just so well timed, and yeah, it's interesting though, because like the entire book, like in terms of like how the book, like how the book describes like current day Kvothe as an innkeeper is like he's waiting to die. And that's something I'm really curious to see if in book 3 like he dies after telling his story. Like that's something I just want to know if cuz it's been mentioned multiple times about him just like waiting to die. And I'm like is Bast going to be successful in like reigniting Kvothe's fire or does Kvothe finally realize that like no, like I've done a lot with my life and I've made a lot of mistakes, but it's time to go.
That'd be so sad.
I think it'd make for a really well, it depends on how it's handled.
It
That
could be
could
like
be kind
really
of a
dramatic,
dramatic ending.
and like it could be good, but also it could just be like,
Yeah.
no, he died. What was all that for?
Mhm. I really like Bast's character though. He's like kind of funny, but then he's also like terrifying.
Yeah.
And when I was reading, I didn't remember the threat at the end, but then I started reading it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this part. But then it just kept going on of like 2 pages of Bast like threatening to like do some really horrible stuff to the chronicler, and I was like, oh my gosh, like why so dramatic?
I was like, I get the motivations, and like I like that he, cares for Kobothko, whatever, whoever the hell he is. But it was a bit much.
Right, and I want to see, and that's something I wonder if we get to meet Bast in later books to like kind of like link up the timelines per se, because I still don't get why Bast is so like connected to Kvothe. Like why he has so much like I don't know, like connection.
Yeah, I get what you're
So
saying.
what is the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Like when you're indebted to another person, almost. No, there's a word. I don't know. I don't know what the
No.
words. But the interludes I really enjoyed. This go around. And why he became a teacher too, because I'm pretty sure it mentioned that he never wanted to be a teacher. And then he was teaching Bast. I was like, why did he take on a student? Why Bast of all people?
Many questions.
So many questions.
Is indentured the word you're looking for?
I don't think so. But I mean it works.
Thank you, Noodle, for the suggestion.
I'm really looking forward to the second book too. Like to refresh my memory. I don't know when I'll read it. Hopefully it won't take me 11 months. Oh, indebted. I think that's the word I was looking for.
Ah.
Thank you, Darcy. There it is.
One of those words.
Yeah. And what kind of demon is Bast? Wasn't it mentioned that he was Fae
I thought
in
he
the
was
very
Fae.
last chapter?
Pretty sure. I thought that was
I think
mentioned
it's
like a lot
Fae.
earlier.
Was it?
Because he's like scared of iron. Or not like scared,
Right.
but like it's just like he is scared of iron, but
Yeah. I think it is mentioned like explicitly in the last chapter. Where he's like one of the Fae. Let's see. Oh my gosh. This really goes to like the last pages of this book.
I know like the last page is just like here.
Yeah. Oh, you know nothing of the Fae if you think our stories lack their darker sides. So he just kind of, it's like, yep, I'm Fae.
I liked that he went like
I can
kind of feral
absolutely
at the end,
destroy
honestly.
you.
It was kind of
Yeah.
scary, and I was like, oh. But also, I was like, I like it when authors show like the more dark and twisty side of the Fae, because obviously you have like Sarah J. Maas books where like, oh my god, they're so hot. But
Yeah.
in this book, they're like, no, they're scary, and like they've historically been scary, and I like that.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of fantasy stories do show Fae in like oh, it's a fun sort of like even Cassandra Clare, when they're like, oh yeah, fairies are so fun, and then there's like a scene where like people have like danced to their deaths
Yeah,
and they're still dancing. I'm like, that's freaking terrifying.
yeah,
But it was just so jarring, I think, too, because Bast was kind of like a more like cheerful, like upbeat character. For him to just like go all like dark, and
I liked it that
I liked it too.
that he did that.
All right, we have declared that Bast is in fact Fae.
There we go.
The evidence has been proven. Oh my gosh. Any other major points that y'all wanted to discuss at all? Damn, we have another awkward silence.
Fill it with getting a drink to
Yeah.
make this awkward.
Mm-hmm. I'm really sad my throat hurts. I literally I had never lost my voice at a concert, but then when I lost my voice when I got like sick or whatever, ever since then, like I've been able to actually lose my voice, which like has never happened before. So I don't know what happened. to like trigger that. But
I've been to one concert and I lost my voice when I went to it. So
what concert did you go to?
Ariana Grande.
Ah, yes.
It was so
What do you think about the Chronicler?
good. I don't really have
I
a lot
mean,
of
we didn't
thoughts on
really get
Chronicle.
much. Do what?
I said I don't really have a lot of thoughts on him.
I don't really either. I really liked his introduction where he
Getting
just like got
mugged.
robbed and he was like, actually, that was kind of civil, all things considered.
Yeah.
But that was a funny scene. And I don't know. It's not there's not a lot with his
Yeah.
character.
What did you guys think of the Chronicler? Anybody's favorite character?
Do you have a favorite character? I know it's not Quoth.
I don't know. I really liked Ari. I feel like she was just the most interesting.
Okay.
Very
Interesting.
eccentric, but I was like, that's kind of like that. Lives in the sewers. Like, okay.
Go off. Interesting. I think I don't know, I really like Devi. I know we don't get a lot from her, but she's just such a badass and like I don't know. And I do like Quoth, I will say. I do like his character as flawed as he is and has like narcissistic, but Simon also just the dialogue we got from Simon, I was like, Simon is a whole mood. Like, am I Simon? When he was like crying during that song and he was just like, I'm gonna need a minute to recover. I'm like, that is me.
Please.
Scarpy is a character that I wonder because I wasn't sure if they're gonna like bring him up again, but then I think they did bring him up in a later chapter where he was like thinking about Scarpy or something, and if he was ever able to like escape, and that made me like curious of if he would be brought back into the story.
Because I feel like the way he mentioned Scarpy to begin with, he was like, and then I met Scarpy. But all he did was like tell a story. Like,
Right.
I know the story was like important, but I feel
Mhm.
like, I don't know, I was expecting him to like have more interactions with Scarpy.
Yeah. Oh, the story that Scarpy told though, boring as hell. The first
Okay.
time I read it, I was just like, I don't care.
Oh
Second time I
my
read
god.
it, I was like, okay, I get why this is important, but I do not care
I thought
still.
you were about to say you really liked it, and I was in like, because I also thought it was boring.
Yeah. I get that the decision of introducing like the backstory almost and like the ability to like foreshadow about the Chandrian and like kind of the history and the lore, but to just like tell it outright, I was just like, could this have been handled better? Like how else would you go about handling a story like this? And that was boring as hell though.
It was info dumpy.
It was very info dumpy.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how else it could have been handled to
I
not
don't
be
either,
as
but
boring or confusing. The first time I read it, I was like, "What are we doing? Why are we here?"
the first time I wasn't reading it, but like I was listening to it on my audiobook, but I didn't realize I had accidentally like skipped a few chapters on my audiobook. So I was like, literally, what's going on? I was so confused.
How did we get here?
I know. I was like, oh, there's like 3 chapters before this that I just haven't read yet.
Interesting.
Oh, somebody skipped through his stories.
Honestly, I don't blame you. They were not very good. I mean, they were like important if you care about like the lore of like the world and the backstory of the Chandrian, but other than that,
Yeah,
I don't
honestly,
know.
I do not care about the Changeling. I can't lie.
There's like for how prevalent the Chandrian is in terms of like being Quoth's motivator, there really isn't a lot to do with it, like it, them, whatever the Chandrian is.
The thing.
But I mean, it kind of makes sense because I think Quoth said it in one of the interludes where he was like, "You would have thought like how stories usually are told, are like, oh, like they go out and they defeat the villain, but Quoth was like, I had more important things, which is like surviving the streets of Terrabin. Like that was much more like prevalent to his life at the point. And so I'm wondering how long it takes for him to get good enough at university to then reach a point where his character can go and like defeat the Chandrian, if that happens.
Yeah,
'Cause I have no idea. No one knows.
Patrick Rothfuss probably knows.
I'm maybe if he's written anything, or he's just gonna let it. I don't know. Like, I have my conspiracy theories on like why he hasn't released a third book, and I think I discussed it in another live, but I don't know. I think he's just trying to keep people invested and keep the King Killer Chronicles on people's like lips, basically, like talking about it. And every time there's like, is he gonna release something? It like stirs the pot, and then he just fades away.
Somebody said the author looks exactly how I expected him to after I
Yeah.
looked him up. I agree, because I also looked him up while I was reading this book, and I was like,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
I wonder why the Chandrian didn't kill Kvothe as well, because he had heard his dad's song too. It was established that they killed due to what people know. I mean, that is true. Like, I don't get the reason why they didn't like kill him before they like ran. I don't remember why they had left him alive, because I forgot they interacted at all. I honestly thought he just came back to an empty camp, because they had time to like just stab him and then vanish. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Sorry, I heard noises outside. I was like, what is happening? Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I wonder if it's going to be explained in later books about like why he was kind of like chosen to live. I don't remember much of that interaction, I'm going to be honest. Nikki says, I think his dad did find their true names, and since there's power in names, they killed anyone who heard. Right, but Kvothe heard. Well, did Kvothe hear it?
Maybe he like told them while Kvothe was gone or something. Off picking the, I don't know, branches, berries,
Berries, branches, whatever.
gathering things.
Will we be reading the second one as our next book? We will not. I'll keep the Discord like server unlocked. So if y'all want to like continue to discuss about the Wiseman Sphere, you're free to do so. Please still use spoiler tags and everything. But we don't typically like continue on series just because if it wasn't people's cup of tea, I don't want to continue pushing that series. But I mean, y'all are more than welcome to. I mean, it's only one more book. Will you pick up the second book? Have you seen the cover? It's so pretty.
That's the only thing that I'm like, should I?
Should I?
I don't know. How long is the Wiseman Sphere? Is it about the same? Is it longer?
I think it's like a little bit longer. I say a little bit. I think it's 300 pages longer.
300 pages longer.
I think this was only 600. The second one's 900.
My God, no. Probably not going to pick it up. I mean, I gave this one 3 stars, so I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's 994 pages, and this one was only 662. I will say, I feel like the second book, I can't judge the beginning of the book because I don't remember it. Like, I don't know, there's like this whole scene with the Arem, or I think they're called that. He mentions it, and I was like, oh, Adem. I think it was the Adem. He basically like both foreshadows in the interludes what he's going to be talking about in the second book, and that's like one of my favorite scenes is when he's training with the Adem basically to become a fighter. I don't know. It's fun to like get to read about his adventures later and then like circle back and then realize like they had like dropped talking about certain scenes that happened in the second book. It's kind of fun. But yep.
The other like long fantasy books that I want to read. It's not.
No, that's. I mean, and if you don't like Kvothe character, to like then spend more time with him.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna get better for me.
I mean, if the third book comes out, would you maybe pick it up?
If the third one came out, I would consider it. But I'm also like, I don't want to start or not. I mean, I've already started, but like, I don't want to continue a series that's not finished right now. Because 11 years is a little ridiculous. So I'm also kind of like,
it's kind of a long time.
It's a choice. As an author, it's a choice.
Yeah. I mean, I get it's like it's definitely like a time investment for sure, but I would recommend it. It's like one of my favorite series. So I'm a little biased in that sense, but if you didn't enjoy Quoth as a character, I don't think you should continue it. At least unless like there's a third book, because I went into it knowing the third book, and then I really enjoyed Quoth's character, so I just like wanted to really spend as much time in the world as possible.
Yeah.
But in terms of like plot line, like we're not gonna get any answers, like any like major answers, and I think that's a little.
Yeah, like if I knew like Samantha, or I don't even have that many questions to be honest, but like if I knew we were gonna get like some closure as I continued this series, I'd be like, you know what, I kind of want to know what's gonna happen, but because I do want to know why it's called the King Killer Chronicle, like that is intriguing, but not intriguing enough to continue it right now. However, I do think I want to read the novella. I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah, I haven't read it, so we'll be able to actually like discuss our thoughts. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to like convince me to like continue a incomplete series, but I don't know what they're gonna do with it, and I think it's just interesting to figure it out. So as for the novella falls, I think you can read it in between the first book and the second book.
So like 1.5.
I think so. I don't think there's anything. I mean, I haven't even read the novella, but I think my friend that recommended it to me said there's nothing that's like spoilery in terms of like the second book. So like that goes on in the novella. But I mean, I'm sure Google can probably answer that questions.
I'm looking it up.
There's also a kind of prequel.
It's a prequel.
What?
It says it's
How's there-
2.5 in the series, but
I think that was in terms of release because it released 2017 or something. Wait, there's a. I'm trying to figure out how like there could be a prequel if this like tells the story of like his entire life.
maybe it doesn't follow Kavoth.
It does not.
What does it follow?
It's called Laniel Young Again, a prequel novel set in Modeg around 150 years prior to The Name of the Wind. It tells the origin of one of the legendary figures in Tamarand. The woman who decided to go out and see the world for marrying him, raising his kids. I don't know. I think this is a character mentioned in this second book. Yeah, it's a character mentioned in the second book. Okay. I was like, the location sounds familiar, but the name of the character did not, and I was like a little confused.
Yeah.
Does anyone know why it's taking so long for the third one to come out? Darcy? Because Patrick Rothfuss is a little bitch like both, okay? I have like there's no like I don't know. I don't know if it's because like Rothfuss is just trying to like get money out of people. Because I know he's done some events where he like promised chapters and then like never released chapters. But I have no idea. I mean, I have my conspiracy theory to where it's like he's just trying to stay relevant for as long as possible because he thinks once the conclusion comes out, like it'll just be another fantasy like series in the world versus like having a story of being like, oh, the third book, it hasn't been released in 11 years.
But like if it was really good, people would still be talking about it. So he should trust his own craft.
Right? I don't get it.
I mean, there's tons of fantasy series that are like completed that people are still like, yeah, you guys got to read this. It's so good.
Yeah. I don't know. He said he wrote it, but it was only 3 stars, so he's doing a lot of editing. That's like a lot of years for some editing. Like, I don't know. Do we want to reveal February's book?
Right.
Yeah, I can't really dig behind me. I'll let you hold it up. It's very like thematic.
Wait, did anybody guess what it was? We mentioned it like.
Yeah.
Darcy, be quiet.
Darcy, shush. We already confirmed it for you. You already commented on both our videos.
Darcy knows. We're reading
Darcy knows.
Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim.
Very, very excited.
Look how pretty it is.
Can you read the little
thing on the back?
The blip. Yeah, the blip on the back.
says, Princess in Exile, a shape-shifting dragon, 6 enchanted cranes, and an unspeakable curse. It will take more than magic to find their way home. Doesn't that sound so good?
That sounds so good.
I'm so excited.
So there's your little like synopsis summary I don't know, like that alone is intriguing enough. I don't usually like the deeper like synopsis of like the whole situations. I really like just jumping into the book. So I like that they have that descriptor on the back that's so vague but intriguing at the same time. And there's a dragon. There's a dragon.
Also, I've heard that the other series by Elizabeth Lim, it's got like what's it called? Spin the Dust, like Unravel the Dawn, or it's Unravel the Dusk, Spin the Dawn. But it's like I've heard it pitched as Mulan meets Project Runway.
Honestly, that enough that if I like Elizabeth Lim's writing, I will continue like and read the other series. This is just a duology though, correct?
Yeah, it's just a duology.
It's 6 Crimson Cranes and then
The Dragon's Promise.
The Dragon's Promise.
Very excited about
it. So, and it's a shorter book.
Yeah, it's only, well, it's like short for fantasy. Oh, it's 454 pages. Not as short as I thought.
A little bit shorter than this book.
I think this is YA fan. Is it YA?
I think it is YA. Every time I go in Barnes and Nobles and see it, I'm pretty sure it's in the YA section.
I wish the US covers were better so I could just buy them at Barnes.
Okay, but the US covers aren't bad.
No, like they're not.
The UK covers are stunning.
Like you can't compete with this.
You really can't compete with that. And it's so like Valentine's-y.
I know.
So we picked this like
really
in December, right?
Yeah, because like I don't really December and then I told you about it.
Yeah. Less Project Runway, honestly, but there's a good amount of fashion in it. Lots of demons and magic. I really hope I like Elizabeth Lim's writing then, because I would love to pick up a series that has that as a synopsis.
Even if I don't like this one, I'll probably still pick up the other one and see what's up.
You're like, try and get the cover. No,
because like that one also like really intrigues me. So like even if I don't like this one, I'd be interested to see what that one's like.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on her writing.
I feel like I haven't heard. I feel like I've seen people really enjoy this book, so
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if I enjoyed it. And even if I didn't, I probably would pick up her other series, but it just depends again, like on the writing.
Yeah.
And if I like it or not. But yeah, 6 Crimson Cranes. Say that 5 times fast. It's going to be our February book club. I'll like announce it on all our channels and stuff tomorrow, but very excited. I don't have my copy.
I'll hold it up for the both of us.
Oh wait, actually.
Have you seen the I think Fairy Loot has editions of these and they're also so pretty.
And like the spine, I don't know if this is gonna show up on camera, but the spine is so pretty. I love the color too, like the cream.
I feel like the entire live show is gonna be like, oh my god, guys, the cover of this book is
well, no, it's blurbed. No, listen, it's blurbed by Stephanie Garber. It's blurbed by. I thought it was also blurbed. Hold on. Was it the other book? There was a book that was.
Oh yeah, it's on the front. Stephanie Garber says it's dazzling, and Kristen Kishore says it's magic.
I thought it was also.
They're on the front.
By Chloe Gong.
Oh, maybe the second one is.
Maybe. I don't know. I mentioned it in a book haul that it was blurbed by Axie O and Chloe Gong, but maybe it was another book that I hauled. Maybe it was the second book. I don't remember. Anyway, 6 Crimson Cranes. That's our February book. Can I ask how much you paid for this edition?
I think I ordered mine from Waterstones because I was buying something else at that point in time. So I think it was like 20.
I got it off Book Depository, and I don't think it was more than 18. Let's ask Book Depository real quick.
Oh, this says it was 17 pounds, so that's probably around like $21-ish.
On Waterstones or on Book Depository?
Well, that's just what the dust jacket of this book says. But Book Depository probably sells it for a bit cheaper.
It was cheaper because now it's sold for $34, and I know I did not pay $34 for that. I think the prices have gone up since I've ordered this.
Well, damn, I need to go find the
Because
Dragon's
I know for a fact I would not spend $34. There's only so much I'm willing to spend.
You could buy it also from like Blackwell's. That's another like UK based whatever, and they have pretty cheap prices.
Section of Amazon. See if you can
find
them there.
The used section of Amazon is so elite. I can't get over it. Actually, they might have these on the used section of Amazon. I'm gonna go check that out.
Yeah, I paid, I think, at 21. I don't know why the price went up so significantly. I think they knew they were doing this as a book club book, and since we're just so popular, they're like, oh, we gotta make some money off these Wyverns and Words book club fans, you
right?
know?
But
we shouldn't have spoiled, you know?
The US cover is also
the US cover is very great.
Yeah. Also, I found out that this is a really random fact, but I found out that the person who does the illustrations for the US cover does them in colored pencil.
Oh, really that makes sense.
Yeah.
There was some like texture on it, so
they look very nice. Like this series and her other series are cool. Mm-hmm. They're just not as pretty.
Okay, we'll shut up about how pretty the cover is.
You guys are probably like, okay, we get it.
That is all we have in terms of discussion. I think this was a solid discussion about The Name of the Wind.
Yes, yes.
I'm glad I was able to trick y'all into reading this book.
I'm glad this book is so pretty, or else I'd unhaul it.
It only hurts my heart a little, Katie. It only hurts my heart a little.
I totally get why people like this book. I don't think it's a bad book. It just wasn't, for me. But if you guys enjoyed it, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy Cass loves this book. So happy it gives her Ranger's Apprentice vibes.
And I am so happy that all of you has showed up to this live today and stuck around until the end. Do what?
I just said thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I was like, what'd you say? My throat hurts, so it is time to go. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I really hope to see you in the next one. And remember, we will have a live show reading sprints on February the 11th. So kind of soon, I will say. So be back February 11th. That will be on your channel?
Your channel. No? My channel.
Your channel.
Interesting.
That'll once again be on Katie's channel.
Yeah. Right here.
And then the live show for 6 Crimson Crayons will be on my channel. So, yeah. Thank you.
Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their Saturday.
And we'll see you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.